Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita. Today we're kicking things off with a really interesting look at crowdfunding. What makes a campaign really fly,
Yeah, what makes it succeed or fail.
Exactly. And the paper we're digging into today, it's actually part of the readings for the virtual summer school in Entrepreneurship Research 2025.
Oh, right. That's a great initiative.
It really is. It started back in 2021, so this is its 5th year now. Completely no fee, which is fantastic.
That's impressive.
Yeah, 5 sessions, 4 papers each, sometimes book reviews too. We should definitely give a quick shout out to the organizers.
Absolutely.
Professor Vishal K. Gupta and PhD candidate Athena Skiadopoulou, both from the University of Alabama. They're the ones spearheading this whole thing. Really valuable work.
For sure. Fostering that kind of research is so important. And this paper, it gets right to a key question for entrepreneurs, doesn't it?
It does. How does the language you use in your project description impact whether you actually get funded?
It's huge. Crowdfunding is massive. Now, what was it, like $34 billion globally in 2020? And growing fast.
But it's tough. That all-or-nothing model on platforms like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it puts immense pressure on creators.
Totally. You either hit your goal or you get nothing. Zip.
Which means how you pitch your idea, the words you choose, it's just critical.
And the stats show it's a challenge. Something like, 40% of projects don't make it? They fail to reach their funding goal.
Yeah, it's a significant chunk. So what is the secret sauce?
Well, this study tries to find some answers using signaling theory.
Okay, signaling theory. Let's unpack that a bit. So the idea is the project creators, they're the insiders, right? They know everything about their project.
They have all the info.
But the potential backers, the outsiders, they only have limited information to go on.
Exactly. So they're looking for clues, for signals about the project's quality and whether the creators are credible.
And those signals can be lots of things. The project description, videos.
Social media links, updates, yeah. And the study we're looking at really zooms in on the language signals, both the style of language and the actual substance.
And crucially, how the importance of these language signals might actually change over the course of the campaign. It's not static.
Right. That's the really fascinating dynamic part. How do you signal quality effectively when people are looking at different things at different times?
So let's break down these signals in the crowdfunding context. The project description is obviously a big one.
It's central. But it's not just the description itself. As you said, videos, images, even things the platform shows. Like how many people have already backed it.
Ah, right. That number of backers, that's a signal in itself, isn't it? Kind of social proof?
A very powerful one. It taps into that wisdom of the crowd idea. If lots of people are backing it, maybe it's a good bet.
Okay, and the study separates signals into 2 main types.
Yeah, broadly. They talk about rhetorical signals, which are really about the language, the persuasion in the text.
Style and tone.
Exactly. And then substantive signals, which are things that are, harder to fake, like having a lot of early backers already. It costs more, in a way, for a low-quality project to attract those.
Got it. So the study focuses mainly on the rhetorical, the language-based ones.
Primarily, yes. They identified 4 key rhetorical signals in project descriptions and analyzed how they correlate with funding success.
All right, let's hear them. What are these 4 language levers?
Okay, first up, emotional tone. This is pretty straightforward, using positive, emotion-packed words. Language that gets people excited, creates buzz.
And how does that play out?
Well, they found it's positively linked to funding. More emotion, more money. But interestingly, the effect was strongest early in the campaign.
Ah, okay. So that initial pitch needs that energy, that excitement to grab attention. Makes sense. What's number 2?
Number 2 is cognitive tone. This is about using rational, logical, sort of intellectual language, showing you've thought it through, the feasibility.
So the head versus the heart, in a way?
Kind of. And this also positively impacts funding. And again, the effect was stronger earlier on.
So early backers seem to respond to both the excitement and the evidence that it's a well-thought-out plan.
That's what the data suggests. You need both that vision and the logic up front. Now, the next 2 are where the timing aspect really comes into play.
Okay.
Third is communal language style. This is language that stresses the collective, using words like we, us, our, building that sense of community.
Right, joining together on this project.
Exactly. And this one becomes more important for getting funding as the campaign progresses, so in the later stages.
Interesting. So as time goes on, people are looking more for that sense of belonging, maybe? Joining a group effort?
That seems to be the implication.
Yeah.
It signals, perhaps, that a community is forming around the project.
Yeah.
And the fourth signal is related. Linguistic style match.
Linguistic style match. What's that exactly?
It's about how similar the project's language style is to other successful campaigns on that same platform.
Huh.
Sort of fitting in stylistically.
Huh. And how does that impact funding?
Like communal language, this also becomes more important in the later stages of the campaign.
So later on, backers might be reassured if a project kind of talks the talk, like other projects they've seen succeed on Kickstarter, for example. It feels more legitimate.
That could be it. It might reduce uncertainty for backers who come in later. They see it aligns with a known successful pattern. It's quite counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah, because you might assume emotional appeals are always the most important thing.
Right. But this study suggests it's more nuanced. Different language resonates more strongly at different times.
Okay, so that covers the rhetorical, the language signals. What about the substantive ones? You mentioned backer support.
Yes, the number of people who've already pledged. That's the key substantive signal they looked at. The idea is it's just harder for a weak project to attract a big crowd early on.
It's tangible proof that other people believe in it.
Precisely. It's a strong signal of quality or potential.
And how does this backer count interact with the language signals we just talked about?
This is really key. They found that backer support amplifies the effect of all four rhetorical signals.
Amplifies? How so?
So when a project already has a good number of backers, the emotional tone, the cognitive tone, the communal language, the style match, all of those become even more persuasive, even more strongly linked to attracting further funding.
Wow. So getting those early backers isn't just about the money they bring in. It actually makes your words more powerful for subsequent backers.
Exactly. The social proof from the backer count lends more weight to the pitch itself. It's a virtuous cycle, potentially.
That's a really powerful dynamic.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to the time aspect, these time-varying effects. It seems central to the findings.
It really is. The fact that the impact of language isn't fixed, but shifts throughout the campaign. That's the core insight.
And the why behind that. You mentioned changing needs.
Yeah, the researchers suggest that backers' information needs and maybe their risk tolerance change. Early on, you might be an early adopter type, excited by the novelty, the vision.
So you respond more to that emotional and cognitive pitch, the wow factor and the this makes sense factor.
Plausibly, yes. You're taking a bit more of a risk, perhaps, based on the core idea and the initial presentation.
But later backers.
Later backers might be a bit more cautious. They've seen the campaign running for a while. They might be looking for signals of momentum, legitimacy, community.
Which is where the communal language join us and the style match. This looks like other successful projects become more reassuring.
That's the argument. They're looking for social proof and signs that this is becoming a real thing with the group behind it. The communication needs to adapt.
Okay, let's talk briefly about how they actually did this study. How did they measure these language features across, over 1,200 projects?
They used a well-established tool called LIWC, Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count. It's basically software that analyzes text and counts words falling into different psychological and stylistic categories.
So it can automatically score a text for things like positive emotion, cognitive processes, use of we words, etc.
Exactly. It allows for large-scale, objective analysis of these linguistic features across many, many project descriptions.
And the time-varying part. How did they capture how these effects changed day by day or week by week?
They used a technique called functional data analysis, or FDA. It's a bit more statistically sophisticated. Instead of just looking at correlations at the start and end, FDA lets you model how the relationship between, say, emotional tone and funding changes continuously over the entire campaign duration.
So it gives you the whole trajectory, not just snapshots, like watching a movie instead of looking at still photos.
That's a good analogy. It provides a much richer understanding of the dynamics of how funding accumulates and how language influences that process moment by moment. You can really see those trends: emotional cognitive fading, communal style match growing.
Okay, so bringing it all together, what are the key takeaways for someone listening, maybe someone thinking about launching their own campaign?
Well, the big one is language really matters, but you need to be strategic about what kind of language you use and when. Don't just write a description and leave it.
Be conscious of the emotional pull, the rational arguments, the sense of community you're building, and even how you fit stylistically.
Right. and tailor it potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe lead with more evocative, exciting, but also logically sound language early on.
To hook those first crucial backers.
Yes.
Yes.
Then, as you hopefully gain traction, maybe start emphasizing the "we're in this together" angle more, and ensure your communication style feels consistent and legitimate within the platform's context.
And definitely focus on getting some early momentum. Those first backers are gold dust.
Absolutely. They don't just bring money, they bring credibility and make your subsequent messaging more effective. It's that amplification effect.
Now, for the researchers listening, or just the naturally skeptical among us, did the study address potential issues? Like, couldn't early success just make creators use more confident language? That whole causality question?
Good point. That's the endogeneity issue. They did acknowledge this and use some statistical techniques, a control function approach, to try and isolate the effect of language on success, while accounting for the possibility that success might also influence language.
So they tried to untangle that knot.
They attempted to, yes. And they also ran robustness checks. They looked at different ways to measure things, different project categories, split the sample.
And the results generally held up.
Apparently so, which adds confidence to the findings. They seem pretty robust.
So the big picture really is, a great idea isn't enough in crowdfunding. Communication, specifically the language you use, is a huge piece of the puzzle.
A huge piece. And crucially, its impact evolves. It changes shape over the campaign's life.
Understanding that evolution, those time-varying effects, that seems like a real potential advantage for creators.
Definitely. It allows for a more dynamic, adaptive communication strategy rather than a static one.
And you know, these principles probably apply much more broadly than just Kickstarter, right?
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you're trying to build support for something over time, persuade people, create momentum. The way your message lands initially versus later on, the role of social proof, the balance of emotion and logic, these dynamics are likely playing out.
In business pitches, political campaigns, maybe even internal company projects.
Could be. It's about understanding your audience and how their needs and perceptions might shift as things progress.
Okay, so a final thought for everyone listening. Now that you've heard about this interplay between language, timing, and success in crowdfunding, if you were launching a project tomorrow, or even deciding which one to back, what's the first language element you'd really pay attention to, knowing what you know now?
That's a good question to ponder. It really highlights how subtle communication can be.
It does indeed. A fascinating look at the words behind the funding.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.